I started out as a stand-up, and I think loads of people slept on that a bit. Like, I think people thought I was an actor.
I remember.
Yeah, I remember doing your gig in East
Done
London.
one of my first shows, bro.
Yeah.
Cracking up comedy. I'll never forget it, man.
That's when, by the way, I knew I was watching you. I was like, this guy's got something different from anyone else I've ever seen compare. I remember you comparing, I think, Up the Creek. Christmas, maybe
the Christmas show,
and it was like
man.
the hardest crowd.
There was a guy called what was his name? There was a guy in the front who used to come every year.
Bro,
they were like builders or something. Like this.
And I was like, for me, this is kind of a home crowd.
Yeah,
like, I'm an ex-scaffolder.
And
you were like, me and you were chatting, and I was like, God, Mo seems like proper calm about this, but that audience is. There's a lot of cocaine going around in that room. There's a lot of guys who look like they're literally like, let's get some comedy and then let's go and have a nice fight and then we're going to go meet a girl. Like, it felt like, and you went out and it was like, somehow the room just changed into a really chilled, fun vibe. And I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be a lot better. And that's when you watch someone and you're like, you have conviction going, oh, that they're going to be they're going to smash it at some point. But yeah, I think so people, like I'd had all that and then I'd become an actor, I got picked up as an actor and I took a little while off stand-up and a lot of people didn't know that that's where I started. And then, so when I was going out on tour, people were like, oh, what, you just turned into stand-up now? Like, and I was like, no, this is where it began. This is what got me from building site to, acting. That was the thing. It wasn't like someone walked past the building one day and I was doing impressions of Andre the Giant and they went, how about you come and do some... So it was...
I could imagine it must be quite hard when you find success in the other thing. Yeah. And people don't like correlate that you're like, no, I was actually successful in this thing. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
And also... So I put so much pressure on that show being like underdog, being like saying when people will watch it will go, oh, actually he's good. And the thing I think like anything in life, I think when me and you played a lot of similar sort of gigs when you're coming up, those small rooms in front of hardly anyone or that might be a little bit raucous or like Up the Creek was like my favourite gig. It was like I adored that, and to be fair, it was one of the only places that used to book me. But it was raucous back then. You do like a Thursday night, and it'd be like new acts, and the crowd they wouldn't give you anything if you didn't have anything. But that was almost my schooling. So when I came back to it, I was like, I have this education already. It's like playing golf. If you play golf at 7 or 8 and you play until you're 12, 13, it doesn't matter if you don't play until you're 35, you go back to it and you remember exactly the tempo, the swing, because you've had that formative education. And that's how I look at stand-up. Yeah.
So you started off, because you're from South London as well.
South, yeah. Croydon, Sutton way.
Yeah. Well, it's still south, really.
Yeah.
Because Croydon is always contentious. Do you know what I mean? Is it south? Is it not? It's like Dagenham, East London, or is it in Essex?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a weird place because I don't think there's anyone in Surrey who'd want to claim Croydon. It's the only place that gentrification so it seems to go, no, we're not going anywhere near that place. And then Sutton's very similar in a sense.
Because you was I always knew, because I knew you worked on as you was a scaffolder. You mentioned this a lot as well. Your early life, growing up in like South London, Croydon / Surrey and stuff, having a job as a trade job. Yeah. I always have a big respect for trade jobs. I think DIY is a scam. I'll always say this. Yeah. I feel like it's meant to make you think you can do it, so you fuck up your own house to get someone to do the job properly.
I also think that DIY is like one of my bugbears. Yeah. Like I always think about how the economy works and how it is better. There's stuff you can do, but there's also stuff that when you have a bit of expertise. Yeah. By the way, I need to say, I was a labourer. I was never like, I remember when I first did like Sunday brunch or something.
What's the difference of labouring?
Because I was skillless. I was good at carrying shit. I was strong.
So labourers are they like assisting the builders in a way?
So like when you hear people like who climb Everest and you'll hear about the champions, but no one ever mentions a donkey carrying shit. That was
okay. Because when I hear trade job, when you say you're a labourer, I just think you're just putting down the slabs on the street and mixing the cement.
That's what I was doing. I was doing the mixing cement, carrying bricks. So I did scaffolding. I did like hog carrying. I did a lot of carrying.
Yeah.
But And then I tried to get my ticket for scaffolding. I eventually got it when I was like 28.
What's this?
So,
What's the
so
ticket?
that's your qualifications as scaffolder.
Really?
I went up like a record. You used to go up to Nottingham and you go and get your ticket, your qualification. So I went a record amount of times to get it, and I
didn't know this.
Yeah, so
I'm so naive. I just thought you just put up the polls and
no. There's
let it crack on. I thought it was like Lego for adults.
Like Duplex just throwing it down.
Yeah, I didn't know this.
400 foot in the air and just wobbling about. Look, Mo's at it again. No, there's like there's an education, there's a science to it in a sense. So I went up quite a few times and failed, but I was, it was just, I suppose, one of those things. It was a long list of things that I'd failed at. I was like, but at school, I was like, I never had any. That's all I thought. My true thing was all I ever wanted to do was work on the dust, work on the bins. I used to say to my dad that feels like a job I'd enjoy. I used to see, like when the bin men come up and they're all laughing and joking.
Yeah.
Someone's hanging off the back of the truck. I think, fuck that would be.
It does look like good vibes though.
Yeah.
At 6 in the morning, this looks like vibes,
they're
man.
like and they're done. They're in a pub by like one in the afternoon, and then my dad spoke to someone and said, my boy's interested in working on the dust. So I went and met this guy who ran his gang on the dust, and I sort of was like, I was really excited, really bang up for it, like full of energy. You could take this route. I've been looking into it, and the geezer's looking at me going, okay. And about a week later, I got a call saying, "No, I don't think it's for you, mate. I think you do everyone's head in a bit. You're a bit too eager." Yeah, I was too eager, but. That's like that or a trade was the things. I tried other things, but like there were the things where I was like, I used to love working on a building site. It gave me every, like, when you talk about what I bring now to what I do was taught through hard work and just like I look at the thing that through stand-up or writing or whatever else, like I always think if you turn up early and put in a shift and work hard and not get discouraged, and keep on going, that's the thing they're the things that natural talent. And when, you started, I'd look at some acts and people with great education and been to the best universities and might, be a little bit more educated. But I was like, the only way I can potentially match this thing is through hard work, is getting my head down and grafting best I can. And that is the thing that to this day, and that's like, as a dad now, that's the biggest lesson I want to try and pass down to my daughter is like, we have to work hard. There's no way around that.
Do you find that with like having a job and starting, because I feel like the job you have before your career will really define your career and how you manage people and situations.
Yeah.
So with you, working, because did you work on a market stall as well?
I worked selling T-shirts at festivals.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that was where I really was aiming for the stars.
Yeah.
So I had one T-shirt design that really worked, and that was a T-shirt. I don't know if I can say it on here. You can bleep it out. That just said "cunt."
Yeah.
It just was the worst word, and we were like trying all these funny designs, like I Facebook your mum or whatever, and then one day we were just drunk, and I turned around and said we should just have a T-shirt that just says "cunt."
Yeah.
And we all laughed and we made it, and then we went up to Scotland and we sold out. We were at a thing at the time called Rock Ness, which is Fatboy Slim's festival.
Okay.
And we were like at a shabby old tent that we just sold T-shirts out of, and from there we had just great summers. So I'd work like on the site, scaffolding or whatever. And then for the summer, I'd go, right, I'm going to go and try and just have some fun, go to festivals and make, like, basically the idea was just go festivals and not have to pay, like, try and make a bit of money.
Yeah.
Like, those T-shirts did really, really well for us. But I worked earlier, like, my, like, dad's good mate used to have, like, a store at festivals. Store, he had one at Camden Market. He had one at, what was the other market? He had a couple. I used to do Camden a lot with him, and that was quite a weird thing because when you come from somewhere like South, all of a sudden you're in Camden, and you're working like selling leather jackets and T-shirts and whatever. You're surrounded by people who you really interact with, people, punks and whatever else. It's
very much like that Camden.
Like an eclectic crowd where you're like, oh, okay, this is like, I'd never in any other social situation probably ever talk to this person, but it's good to always, I think, in life to widen your perspective across like
Yeah,
social
yeah,
crimes.
of course, man.
It's a fun thing.
Yeah. That's mad. And I think it's like, so what you're saying in terms of like, you worked on a building site, but then you've also done things like where, you know, you're selling T-shirts. And it sets you up so much for your career later on in life, because you know how to talk to people, one. You get different personalities.
Yeah.
You're able to kind of see a situation where you're like, okay, cool, let me just bring everyone together. I can see, you know, this person might not be talking to that person, or this person's a bit upset, or they're a bit left out. It's the same with, I think, with retail. Like, retail taught me so much. So by the time like I got into like what my career was, and I guess it's not something you learn straight away.
No.
But I think once you've had a real job, and I don't want to discourage anyone else who doesn't feel like they've got a real job, but those jobs where, you know, you got to work yourself up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You go from sales assistant to now you work in the stock room, and that's the manager, area manager. Retail taught me that so much in a way where I said, okay, I see. I see that this person, like, you know, we get the older person that would work in the shop, but they're older than the manager. So already you're like, okay, how's this going to work out when you're telling him he's late? Do you know what I mean? When you're 25 and he's like 45, but he's worked for the company for 25, 30 years.
Being stepped over. He's like Fredo Corleone.
Yeah. You had a channel, you done the Channel 4 Blaps pilots as well.
Yeah.
How were they for you? Because I feel like now we have, you know, social media that really helps, you know, people emerge and get found and be seen. But this was, I feel like, at a time where like you had to go into 4. You had to, I want to say, like, play the game. Do you know what I mean? A little bit. And what I mean by play the game is that you got to go in and you're like, I'll do this thing. And someone works and like, I think you're great, man. Yeah. And then they leave. You're like, hey,
but that still happens now. That happens like, you know, whatever I am is 30. You know, the way that commissioning is like, is a tough thing for a commissioner. One of the hardest things, I think, when you're making shows at any level is
that being a football manager, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. You can be the best player on the team, and then all of a sudden, you know, and Jose Mourinho's manager, and then Pep takes over, or Arteta comes in and he's got a completely different school system of thought. And you're like, shit, you're not using like a centre back anymore. And I think the thing with something like when we did a thing like Warm Up Guy, I was very fortunate. There's a guy called Shane Allen who'd seen me.
Big up Shane, man. Yeah, good guy, man.
And one of the good, and like, I really wouldn't have a career if it hadn't been for him seeing me and like do a little bit in something. And from there, like, he was like, right, let's give, what have you got for me? And I'd done a bit of studio warm up, and I was like, I think there's a funny world within these guys who do studio warm up who are so close to the thing. Like, you know, you've you know, to be fair, you had KG do quite a few of yours, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a bunch, because I know a lot of the comics.
But yours was different because you're a good guy, and you had good guys that you knew were good. Like, I did them for shows which weren't Mo, who's got that.
Because there are some, studio warm is very hard.
And if you're doing it for more of an entertainment show, I did one for Loose Women. and I wasn't really, I mean, you've seen my stand up, it wasn't necessarily like made for Loose Women, but it was like, it was, so I was just obsessed with like that thing of like, and then, you know, like when everyone's ready to go and you're halfway through a joke and then your microphone goes dead, and I thought, you know, so we did that, and that was like, and then Shane literally left Channel 4 and went to BBC. But that is also the story of like so many different things. Like Eleanor's sitting in there now, and like you and Eleanor are tight. But me and Eleanor, years and years ago, this is, I don't know, man, 13 years maybe, we wrote a thing for Sky. Sky were doing a whole selection of these different stories, like shorts about, all set around Clapham. And we wrote one. And it was like really, really well reviewed across the board. It was like about this couple. My character was like coming out of Weight. It was in Weight Watchers, and she was like, you know, they were like sort of on the fringes of like low level organised crime. And my mate gets out of prison, and we decide to kidnap Frank Lampard. And it did really well. It was really rated well. It was reviewed well. Everyone we were kind of like writing the series, and everyone was like, this is definitely going to series. And then just for some unknown reason, just boom. One day it's like, oh no, that's not happening. And you pin all your hopes on that thing, and you're like, oh yeah. And what you learn time teaches you is that you can't have one thing.
Yeah.
You can't be going into battle with like, oh, this is the one idea that's going to work. That's that for me. At any one time, I'm working on 4 or 5 different things.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if that goes, I don't want to be in a situation where I've got to then go back to a drawing board. I'd rather have and my brain weirdly works in quite a way. I think if I've got a few different things going on, scripted things at one time, it's like, okay, I'll pick this up. Today I fancy writing this. Tomorrow I can write that. I think that's a good way of always making sure that you've got a few plates spinning.
What led you into getting into more of the scripted space? Because I feel like there's a lot of stand-up comics out there, and we kind of know how to write for ourselves, but very early on, writing for scripted is a different level of writing, in a sense of you have to write, obviously, however you write, but it's writing one sometimes for an experience or an idea. How was it for you when you first started writing? Because you're talking about some of those knockbacks, but in terms of where you just, get on your laptop and just start bringing out ideas.
Well, I should say, even Eleanor would say, I didn't even have a laptop until I think I did King Gary. So I'd done Murder and Successful and Actually Too without even. I used to write on my phone. I used to write scripts on my phone,
really?
and then Eleanor would put them up into a script.
Oh,
But my thing was that was just how I naturally so when we write Action Team or Murder and Successful, I was always but my thing was, it was just I found the stand up, but I was at a time in my career where stand up was, I don't know if you they found it really hard to play. Stand up has changed a lot. You're a very big part of that. Stand up has changed across the landscape. You're a massive, massive part of how UK stand up has changed in my time. And me and you have been probably going back a similar amount of time, but when I started out, you go out, you'd be on, and you'd have the old guard, which would, but a lot of the people coming through, they were very generic, and that's nothing against them, because it's tough to get in front. But there wasn't you didn't look around and go, okay, it was just a very and I didn't fit that mold at the time. I don't think they. Did
you ever go to Edinburgh?
Yeah, I did Edinburgh and hated it.
Yeah,
Edinburgh was the first time in my life where I was socially, as a social mobility thing, where I'll go, oh shit, I'm not from the same world as these people. I couldn't get my head around how. I don't know if you were I assume you were the same, but I had to take a month off of having to turn around to your foreman and go, I'm going to take August off, which is famously one of the busiest months. In the summer is not a time to be taking time off from building site. It's you could be doing
saving retail, man.
It's what? Where are you doing? I'm going to go to Edinburgh. What the fucking hell are you talking about? Where are you going up there? Because
it's called Edinburgh Festival, so it just sounds like you're going. It's like a Glastonbury for a month.
For a month. And he's like, what are you doing up there? And I was like, I'm going to chase my dream and be a stand-up. He's like, can't you just be a fucking stand-up back here? And I've been doing stand-up, so I've been working all day on site, and then I go and do a gig, and I might go to Manchester that night and then get a coach back a night coach back, or a train early in the morning. Anyway, so I went to Edinburgh, and I felt oh shit, this is what I mean about it changing, over time. But at the time, I felt a real outsider there. For a long time in stand-up, I was I don't know where I fit within this.
Yeah, same.
And until until really now, I sort of, I think having a kid changes you as a thing of going, but I'm I don't need to fit. I get on with the people I get on with. I like the people I like. Sometimes, and it's an eclectic mix of different acts and different people, but I don't need to have a massive clique around me or a massive group of people around me to warrant why I'm there. And I think that I felt such an outsider for that first. I think I went for two years in a row, and I got no traction. No one was really interested, and all the stuff I was doing that seemed to work was sort of down in London really, and a lot of times going up, auditioning for stuff I didn't get, but I was kind of getting enough people seeing that and I've never had it to this day any acting coaching or anything. It was just I always just felt oh, actually this feels something I feel a bit more suited at in playing sort of something on screen like a weirdo or whatever or sort of a part. And that was the thing I felt I'm making more. I'm picking up more work doing this than I was stand up, and I just found myself getting quite lost within the world. It's I didn't know what my voice was anymore. I was very clear what I was when I started. I knew who I was, and when I used to gig with you, Like I knew like I'm from South London. First thing I needed to do is always like let people know that I'm a big, like fun, goofy guy. I can buy it if you need me to buy it, but for the most part, I'm a big, silly like Labrador, and I need people. I knew what my voice, I knew what I was, and then I found myself going, and people like manager at the time was pushing me into a place where I'm like, I don't feel like I'm that thing. I'm not, you know, and there's nothing because I think he's a brilliant comic like Russell Howard. I'm not Chris Ramsey. I'm not those guys. I don't come from that background, and he was trying to make me more that, and I'm like that. And then like he was like, you can't improv. Like you're one of the best at this, but you know, on stage you can find a moment, and that might be something you've never written, but it just comes to you.
Yeah,
you know?
of course.
I was always like that. That's how my Murder and Successful worked or whatever. And sometimes I was just like, what, I've got to say exactly what's on this script. Well, I'm dyslexic. It's a struggle to read. You know what I mean? I can't remember all this stuff. That was what I found hard, man.
And I think as well, like during that time, because you had like shows where you could see someone's success, so you could see someone essentially, you know, do some of the competitions, Amuse Muse, Laughing Horse, so you think you're funny, and then you'd see them go to Edinburgh, almost have a, you know, a standout show, and then before you know it, they're on, you know, 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown, Mock the Week, and then it'll be live at the Apollo, and then it's a tour, and then you're like, oh wow, now they're, you know, they're on a show, but like as them, but like they're like really part of that show. Like, have I got news for you? But they're a regular on the show, so you could map it out and like, okay, cool. So if I can do that within 2 years, I can be on live at the Apollo because you had seen the journey, and I feel like at the time, I felt like with comedy that was the pinnacle to follow, because you're like, well, he's just a normal comedian like me, and I can do this show, and you know, you'd see the shows, you go on the website, and you're like, oh, he won. And he's on there. And I've done that. I've done all the shows. I've done the Amuse Muse, the Laughing Horse, went to Edinburgh. And I remember I went and done, did you ever do the 8 out of 10 Cats Countdown? Did you ever do the audition one? Awfully,
bro.
I love asking
probably
the people
5 times.
It was horrible, man.
It was awful. 5 times I probably did that.
And every time, on that, man. How was it for you?
Terrible. I was awful. Like terrible. And like I never had like I found that on all panel shows. I found that like I just, even to this day, like I still find like I don't quite know if that ever felt like my sense of humour and what I was really good at. And
of course,
like there's people where I look at and go, fuck man, you're so good at. I need to say as well, like the thing that I found really disheartening, and like I used to gig a lot. Me and Eddie Caddy had the same agent, right? Back then. I used to gig with Eddie a lot, right? And Eddie, even now, but back then you used to watch Eddie, right? And he smashed nearly every, like, he was so mainstream. He was so like, he just felt, he was so lovable, so brilliant. And then I just sit there and think, if this fucking guy isn't getting picked up for everything, and he's better than me. Like, you know, he's so like ready to, like, I've known Eddie for forever, and I watched Eddie Caddy like when it like gigging. I remember he did the stunt at the O2. He booked the O2, which is an insane thing, which now feels like one of the coolest things you can ever do, right?
But back then it's like,
but he got no track. But
man, no social media, nothing like that, man.
Eddie was like, you watch him go, he could literally pick this bit up that he's got a bit, take it straight onto like any panel show, any bit of TV, and it's ready to go. And if this isn't happening for him, like he's a great guy, guy to watch as like brilliant in the moment. But when he's doing his material, he's like locked in. Like, these are the beats of this story.
Yeah,
I'd be like, and so I think it was just an ilk at a time where if you just didn't fit. For me, I never took that as like umbrage to that, because I tried out for nearly every panel show and I fucked it myself. I can't turn around and go, oh, don't pick me. I turn up and go, oh no, they were significantly better than I was. If I saw sort of whoever, or like Ed Gamble on it, I'd go,
I didn't even know you had to audition for them.
No.
I didn't even know that.
But some people are just brilliant at that stuff. And like that is like, you take your hat off. It's like, I say Ed Gamble because like I think Ed's like one of the best at doing that. Ed's like a really like he's a brilliant comic, but Ed was one of those people you watch and he just like sort of like sit waiting, and then bang, he'd hit with a joke. I'd say 150 things, and like none of them would be that like as good as the
And it's like when you're in the room, so they would film it at Tiger Aspect. So anyone listening, you imagine going into someone's work where they make television. Everyone there works in TV, commissioners. And it's essentially really their lunch break.
Yeah.
That they're just coming in to see.
Yeah, there'd always be sandwiches at like a platter board.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's their kind of lunch break.
The sake of walking, going, sandwiches are right.
Yeah. And then sometimes you might have. I remember doing it once where Richard Osman was in there.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, oh right, if this goes well, I might have to get on his thing still. I went terrible, man. But like you're middle, right? So let's fast forward from then on, because when in terms of your writing and how you're writing, I guess it became stronger because then you got, your show got commissioned. Murder Successful.
So I had like Warm Up Guy and Go On My Way, and we'd done this thing, Sunshine Simon, which is Sky, and hadn't really gone my way. And there had been a couple of other pilots that I'd written, and I'd been used in other people's things. Like I was in the background, like a couple of other sketch shows, and I was getting work. And then a guy called Zy Bennett was working at was at BBC at the time. I think he was running BBC Three maybe, and he was kind of like, look, we want to make something with you. We think that you. And it was like at that time when me, Andy Brereton, and Avril Sperry were talking about Murder and
Good People's Man. Yeah, man.
We were chatting about Murder and Successful, and it was very like we'd taken that to Channel 4, to Sky, to ITV, and everyone had passed on it. And BBC was like the last port of call. So Andy foresaw to have it might go. So he went, look, can we just shoot something instead of, because they were like do a read through. I was like, this is an improvised show.
Yeah.
So, and we'd done read throughs before. We did one with Mark Wright, and it didn't really work. So we were like, let's just ask some favours. And we got like James Defron came in, who's like my long-term like collaborator, and we go back since we was kids. It's a very important relationship in my life. So he came in, and then the four of us sort of developed it, and we pulled some favours, and we just shot like 10 minutes and then gave that to Zion. So I was like, this is like nothing else I've ever seen before. Let's take a punt. And we had such little money. I know, like, similar to, I guess, yourself and like Big Nasty, weren't like a big budget show. We were a small budget show. So when you're making something like that, like this, but my thing in my back of my mind was like, this is it. This here now is my chance to be a lead. Yeah. Like this is it. This show can't go wrong. Like I'm not going to get another chance of doing this, because otherwise I'm always just going to be playing, the big goofy mate or the smelly next door neighbour. I'm like, this thing has to work. So I threw everything I had into it. I was bunking the train to get there. I stopped work on the site, so I was like, just threw everything. I had no real money. Me and my wife now and girlfriend at the time, we'd lost our flat. Went for a tough time, but you're like, this has to work. And I've never worked so hard at anything for that first series to come together, to go like, this is going to be something. And like that moment, even now, like I think about it, not I don't want to be like emotional, but that moment I remember when we did the screening for the Jamie Lang episode, and you have that press screening, and everyone there is like, you're like, so what the fuck is this show? And when you're trying to explain, like, oh yeah, so it's completely improvised. The guy turns up, and I'm going, and everyone's like, oh, this is going to be a pile of stinking shit. Like getting their pens, and it went well, and you're like, oh fuck, this. I think things might be okay, but don't get me wrong, like, because always working hard to better that. But that was a moment there where I'm like, this has to hit different, and I'm not able to be. I know what I think, like in life, and in certainly in this business, you need to know your limitations, what you're good at and what you're not. Right? You need to know where you rest, where you sit. And I could see, like, to say as well, like, I look at the generationally, like the people around us, and me and you come out of the same like group, really. People, that the standard was high. You're looking around at people going, oh, he's good. Do you know what I mean? And you knew that there's people around as well who might not have been like, seen yet, but you knew that there was talent everywhere. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So I was like, this has to hit. This has to be the thing. This needs to be the thing. People go, oh shit, this guy can improvise. He can act a bit, and that was why, I manifestation or whatever, but just hard work was just like this. We all worked so hard, like Andy, Avril, James. It was just like a real like coming together of like, for everyone, they needed that hit.
It must have been, because I that one with Jamie Lang, I've seen that episode, and it's so funny because like Jamie, what I like about him, He's posh. He comes for money and he don't care. He's unapologetic about it. He doesn't like throw it in your face.
No.
He's not like, but he's like, I know I'm posh. I know this. But he's such a nice guy. He'll go with whatever the vibes are. Do you know what I mean? But it was so funny to watch, man. Because he's like it's like we're with Jamie. So we're experiencing it with him.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
That was the whole idea of the thing. But also that Jamie, it's an interesting thing about society and how it works in that you can make a flash judgment on something, on someone.
Yeah,
And I had
course,
all this,
man.
but you know what? The weird thing with Jamie is that no one wanted him at that time to do it. There was like so many people like, I don't get him. He's just a reality guy. And I watched him on saying, and I was like, I think he's really funny. And him and Deborah Meaden were the two where you're like, these two.
I've seen that one still,
And they felt
Did he have
like,
Chris Kamara on one of them as well?
Yeah, he was in series 2, He was a G. Like, he that was probably out of everyone the one that I was most like, sort of like starstruck by. Because I love, and Chris has become quite a close mate now. And we did all the publicity for that. We did like all the press stuff, me and Chris was just like, every time we go and do like a bit of press, he'd go, have a beer after, won't we? And then, you're texting the missus, it's like 9 o'clock at night going, I'm out with Chris Kamara. You went at 8 o'clock this morning to do an interview on breakfast radio. Why are you out at 12 days? That's why I don't drink anymore. But not Chris Kamara, but I'm easily led.
Did you know that doing that show at the time, because I feel like we all know when we're doing something, you're like, oh, this is special.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even because you're doing it because you're like, oh, I know what's going to come out of it. Because sometimes in our careers, we're like, if this goes right.
Yeah, but it's like when I remember when I see, because I think it was around the same sort of time as you and Big Nasty. I think you were the year after us for the BAFTA. I think we won it and then you won it for that entertainment.
I think so.
You were the year, I'm sure you were the year. So. But I remember seeing you in that show and going, obviously, like a fan of yours on social media, tried to get you a Murder and Successful, you didn't learn your audition. I was like, it's really good for this.
Do you know what it was in that audition, yeah? Because I was like, don't bring up that. Because I had to play Will I Am.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, I was watching videos of Will I Am for time, just trying to get the mannerisms right and everything. And then when I got in front of the camera,
it's horrible though.
Just because even at that time I'd never done any self tapes. But then I was like, yeah, but like Tom, that's my guy, man.
No, but it was so,
I'll be all right.
Because I was like, Mo's a fucking amazing. But it's a weird thing as well because then I think Samson got it.
Samson KO. Yeah.
Shout out Samson. But you were doing, but I remember seeing like you with Big Nasty, who I need to shout out because I think he's one of the funny. Big Nasty and Danny Dyer for me are like two of the funniest human beings.
Naturally, just so natural.
But like when I saw you on that, I was like, oh wow, this guy. You know when you just like can almost foresee like, oh wow, that's the thing, right? That's where you see you doing that.
Yeah.
That's where you go, oh yeah. And like subsequently you see what So you are in a place where you're like. Yeah, it felt like even now I'm like that. I'm glad that was the thing that broke,
of course,
that broke through because that's where you're like, oh, okay, it's a good thing to be known for. I think like I can't remember who told me earlier in my career, but they're like, as long as the thing that breaks you through is something that people remember warmly. Yeah, you get a little bit more wiggle room if something doesn't go as well. People go, oh, okay, he wasn't as good on that thing, but I remember like it shows that. The very fundamentals of what you're doing, you have that talent, that, and that's your thing. And I think that first step is always the most important.
What was it like winning the BAFTA?
It's a mad thing. I mean, you've won 4 or 5. Unexpected. I'm going to tell you. Like I don't know how you felt, but I was like, I got BAFTA breakthrough the year before with like some mad people, like. Was Florence Pugh.
Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So she was in my group. Coyote.
Oh yeah.
So
of course.
Me and Coyote got double tight for that. Malachi. They were all like, and I'm like, I'm quite significantly older than everyone else on this, by the way. I look,
it's a bit mad when you get breakthrough when you're like,
40.
I've been doing my thing for a little while.
Also, I was going to say, look, remember that episode of Fools and Horses where Rodney is with all the kids, like he went to the cereal. That's what I felt. I was like, and then, so I'd won that I think the year before, or 2 years, whatever. And so, but when I went that year, I didn't think we were up against like Taskmaster and Would I Lie to You, and like these are great shows, and I just thought this is like this weird little show that's tucked away on BBC Three. It's quite cult in its very nature, so I hadn't written a speech or anything, so it was a mad one. I still look there and think like, fuck, and also I mean, look, it's like, because then you sort of think, fuck, is this just what it is? And then I remember Rio saying to me afterwards, because Rio won that year, and Rio saying like, what are you going to do now? And I went, well, man, fucking got up anyway. You need to enjoy it tonight, and then put it away and work towards the next one and the next one, and that's a sportsman's. And so then in my head, I haven't won one since, but you have got a thing of like, okay, you know what that feels like, you know what to, I could end up just being like, no offense, but the Arsenal of BAFTAs.
No, but you won. I think when you look at the caliber of shows, and then knowing that it goes down to maybe 4 or 5 of all the shows that have come out this year, and you're like, right, we're in the last 4.
Yeah.
And I remember when I've got a nomination, and I was like, listen, this is a win.
Yeah.
Like, to even sit here amongst everyone and get a nomination,
bro, it
was just like, bro, it just gives you like the recognition that the wider public will be like, oh, that's BAFTA recognised, like Oscar nominated or Emmy nominated. Do you know what I mean?
It's as big as that, and when you see like how you're, especially like I say with a show like that it's been like the same group of people in its DNA for like 3 years making it, and also like that last series was like we all kind of knew that was it. We kind of all just been like, this feels like it's gone as far at the moment as it possibly can. Like, you're not like, you don't want to be recycling material, or it just felt like people had got used to that last series, which was great. We had like Reggie was brilliant, and Richard Osman and Lorraine, and we had like good people on it, but you just felt a little bit like, what else could we do to shock and get the people, because you're still having to try and find new bits. And actually, we'd all made our peace, so it was kind of in a way like, okay, this will be this. Do you know what I mean? And then to win that, you're like, oh, okay, so nice,
the last series that must have felt like like the cherry on top of the cake. Do you know what I mean?
But then, like we were talking before about like first album, second album, the pressure's on then to what is your follow up to that, and what is the thing that you make, because now you have got people's attention. Yeah. So then the next step is interesting. It's like, what do you do now?
And speaking of attention, like being on the big screen, because like to then transition into obviously things that you've written.
Yeah.
And also, you're a really good actor, Oh, I'm not even just saying this to gas you up, but like, it's so mad. Like when I speak to you, but when I see you play characters on the screen, I'm like, wow, Tom's a cold actor, like, because it's like, I don't know if you method act or but I believe the character. Like the accents are different, your mannerisms, like you're really good, man.
This is a mad thing to say. So when I look at like, so when we did Murder and Successful, this is an insane thing to say. I was like, how would Denzel play this in Murder and Successful? Like what edge? So, but then I watched a lot of videos like about people that I think are like, so there's quite an element of like with Murder and Successful is always kind of method. I've always been very lucky to work with people and watch people from quite early on in my career that I rated and who were very like great performers. And subsequently, as time has passed, it's like even if I'm not it's very much like if you with stand up or anything, I think in any walk of life, but certainly ours, like when I would watch you compare, I'd be like, which is a fucking tough job, but you try and take something of someone's done, or like a type of rom or whatever. You're watching people, and when with acting, my thing was number one. I think methods are different. Yeah, it's like just try and stay in the moment as much as you can.
Do you method though? Do you?
But like there's an element of like someone was doing Mick in The Curse. There was like quite a lot of trying to find that voice and find the mannerisms and find the character. And then when it came to things like Wonka was slightly different, but I was given quite a lot of free reign there to create.
That's been good though, man.
That was like crazy.
Man's in Wonka,
Yeah,
that's a big deal, man.
It was, yeah. And I think the weird thing was like you have this imposter syndrome that is sitting very much on your shoulder, but you're conscious that you're with the very best, right? You're every scene's with like Timothy and like Olivia Colman.
Yeah.
So you're like, fuck, like, and I'm not that long really off the scaffold site, and I'm like, but there's a part of me when it came to that, I was like, I was picked for this for a reason, and if I can't lose the faith in what, like, so I need to be up at that level. I can't just quietly just shift into the scene and just hope that I get away with it. I have to make a bit of a statement here. I have to, like, you know, Paul King, who's one of my favourite people, but cast me in Paddington 2, and I had like one line in Paddington 2 at first, and that became quite a bigger part because he was like constantly, oh, we could, you know, and you know, being around, I guess, and test screenings have done well. So with Wonka, I was a bit like, I need to sort of show something here. And then, like, I was fortunate, I was saying, like, Thousand Blows, where I was working with like Stephen, and like, amazing, that was an incredible cast. Malachi again, Erin Doherty is I think one of the best sort of actors in the world at the moment. She's phenomenal. But I had a really small part in Thousand Blows. It was like Stephen and Hannah had asked me to do it, and I just sort of thought it's my first foray and first step really into that drama world, that drama space. And I had 2 other offers on the table at the same time, which were bigger parts, but in stuff that I was a bit like hesitant about because I felt like I'd done it before. And the big thing for me is like, I'm going to be around Stephen Graham. And for me, Stephen Graham is just like, you know, Steve. He's like
one of the best, man.
He's one of the best actors, but one of the best human beings,
and one of the nicest people, man.
Like Stephen was just so. And James Nelson Joyce, Danny Mays, like, so this part was like, on paper I was like, but do you know when your gut tells you, I'm like, this, I want to be in something as like, I knew how amazing the scripts were. Ashley Waters is directing, and like, so there's like a thing where I'm like, I just need to be around these people, and this is I'm never going to be able to go and go back and learn. This is going to be my education. So like, even in times where I wasn't in scenes, or I might be at like standing in the background of a scene, I'm watching Stephen, Hannah, Erin, I'm watching Ashley. I mean, Ashley for me is one of the most talented people walking the planet. Like he's an amazing human being. Like, you can't help but feel inspired by when you're around Ashley Waters. But like, as a director, I was like, fuck, man, you're just like, I've known Ashley for a long time. When I won the BAFTA, I remember my happiest memories is looking to, as I came down, and Ashley just like smiling over, like, and just shouting to me, yes, big man, yes. And like, so to be on, but yeah, Stephen, I'm just watching that, and I'm like, this is, you're a fool if you don't take an education away from this. That this is what it takes. And there's moments like where I'd do something like, yeah, acting wise, and it wouldn't, like, Stephen would be like, let's fucking not up here, let's go, let's meet. You're a big guy and you can do things so simply, and he'd give me tips, and you walk away thinking, wow, like, Stephen Graham, and like, he's been a friend for a long time. But it's the first time we did a thing called Virtues a couple of years ago when we were improvising in this pub scene, and I was, you know, but yeah, that for me is like, that Thousand Blows is like as big as any other part of my steps to where I want to be. Is that thing is, and like, when you're a part of something with like that with a group of people, and I need to say as well, like, that as a set was just a beautiful place to be. Like, across the board, like the diversity that I saw, the people, like young people, like, come in for their first jobs as runners, like the thing that you don't see behind the scenes, like Stephen and Hannah and Damien Keogh and whoever had created something really beautiful. So when I was on there, I was like, wow,
the set was,
mate, the set is unreal.
It's in was it Burns or something?
Yeah. It's unreal to see. Yeah. But just the crew, it was a very, and I look at everything has to have a reason when you're doing, like, so the things I turned down, I was like, they're not for me, because I could earn more money, or I could do this, but if I want to reach where I hope I can go, sometimes you have to take a step a little this way and go, oh shit, I learned a lot here. Yeah. And I straight away, weirdly, then went into 2 things that were more drama, and the stuff that I'd learnt from, you know, Erin, Stephen, Daniel, Ashley, Hannah. Those things stood me in such good stead for the times when I was like working on other things. I was like, oh shit, yeah, I remembered that little bit of advice from Stephen, or something James Nelson Joyce had said, or whatever. That's the stuff that I'll always remember. And
where do you hope to go? Because I feel like, you know, you have a podcast, you do stand up, you know, you're on tour in January as well.
Shout
out. You're on tour. We were talking about that before. Yeah. You're acting, where you can act in, you know, comedic stuff, and you can do dramas. But then I also feel like for you, it's like there's no end where you can take it. Because like I'm saying, like you're a really good actor, Tom.
Oh, thank you, man.
So like,
it means, yeah.
Like it doesn't surprise me if you get cast in like a Wonka or like, yeah, it doesn't surprise me, or even what roles you do you get typecast as well for a lot of stuff because of your size and stuff.
That's a worry,
do you know what I mean?
Because you just want to try.
Because I feel like you should be in Mobland. I feel like you should be like.
I've done a thing with Guy now.
Yeah,
which comes out next year or late this year.
That's and you can't just say it like that.
No, but like I've
done a thing with Guy.
No, but he was like I was so starstruck with him, but he was like he was like he was just everything you'd hoped he'd be and more.
Yeah.
And again, it's like a nice part. It's a good role and it's more drama. But I love comedy. Comedy is like I want to do more comedy. I think we have so much talent here.
Yeah,
I want to do like comedy films. I want to do like. I look back at the sort of, the ilk of like Trains, Planes and Automobiles and stuff that we grew up Hangover, and I'm like, I want to make sure that part of it is like, how do we push forward with comedy? I love writing. I love creating day in, day out. I'm very fortunate that I have the support around me to do that. But I feel, and I say this in not in a self, like I have no real fear of failure. I was written off at such a young age as not really like people. I was dyslexic. I wasn't particularly academic. So for a long time in my life, I wasn't very good at sport. You've seen me play football.
Oh yeah, Soccer Aid. Come on, man. Come on, man. Yeah. But I feel like with Soccer Aid, it's like we're never really judged on our playing ability. Nah. It's just like cool, like you managed to muck in and you gave it what you could. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You was all right though.
Yeah, I played all right.
You was up top. You was playing for England.
They stuck me up top, and I'm like, I've never played. And then you've got someone shout and go, mate, run into the channels, make sure you're fine. I'm a 43-year-old overweight comedian, bro. How did you find Soccer Aid? I liked it. Do you know what? I met some friends there. You was there, which it was nice. Chunks is like. I met Chunks there, and his book is like, Chunks is just an infectious guy. I remember like he sent me this beautiful message when he didn't know I was in Wonka and he was watching Wonka on a plane, he was but like it's a mad place because you're surrounded by footballers, and I'm obsessed with football. I love football, but then also you meet people that you'd never like. Weirdly, like Andy Cole was like one of the best people I've met. Like,
he's one of the nicest people.
Yeah,
man.
but like. I sort of, when you just meet someone, you're just like, this guy is just. I wanted to impress him so much, but like that vibe in that hotel. And I did it with you in the year of COVID, so we're all Dermot,
2020, man. That was a tough one.
Dermot Kennedy, who is like, he's subsequently become a good pal. It was a beautiful thing to be involved in, and but also like never lost on like those are the moments, right? They're the little wow, fuck, like this feels like, but like, but I was never like. I think the nature of Soccer Aid slightly changed now. That feels like there was the last few years, and now it feels probably more. It's had to become more of an entertainment thing. That year felt like, this is about a football match, and now it feels more like there's the other stuff, which is great. But also, I was like kind of like sort of knew my place. I knew that just be fun. That and like, which is my nature in life, is get through it. But if you fail when you're not like. Good at things, I think we put so much pressure on, and so like, we talk about all the things that have gone our way. I could list off hundreds of auditions that have gone wrong, scripts that have been rejected. Yeah, but like I never like lose sight of in the end. It's like that is the game we have chosen. That's the business that we're in.
Yeah,
but if you've had that grounding from quite a young age, where you're like, you're never the guy who gets the girl, or you're never like, this thing doesn't go your way, that thing doesn't go your way. But shit will be all right in the end. Yeah. What's meant to be shan't pass. It's like, and that is the thing, right? You just got to keep milling away. So what the future holds is like, you hope, is always to keep doing things that you think, fuck, that's a bit different. This is a bit like out of my comfort zone. Yeah. And always trying to challenge yourself. I think that's the thing that's, it's like, fucking hell, man. It's like, you're someone I like look at, and I think, like, man, I buzz when I saw you, and you're out in LA, fucking doing the best things.
Man.
No, but it's fucking beautiful, man. But you are like, I think similarities to myself is when I see you is like, you didn't come through a conventional way into this. It's a slow burner, and it's, you know, but you're figuring shit out, but also you go, this is what I am, this is where I sit, and this is what, like, I don't look at you, and like, I don't look at you as someone goes, this frightens me, because I think you know that you've got the minerals to go, well, I can step into this, and I'll work it out, and I'll be all right. And I think that's the thing that I try to have, like, day in, day out. You're like, and that goes for being a husband, a father, best you can.
But you've always got this really nice ability to just, like, I don't know, whether it's put an arm around someone, like, see how someone's doing, and genuinely care. Like, I remember when we done that soccer raid and Chunks missed a penalty, and it was hard because obviously there was no one in the stadium.
Yeah.
Which felt louder than if people were there. It was a really strange atmosphere. Because it was Old Trafford, which felt like a kickabout.
Yeah.
But then realising this is on television, loads of people are watching it because there was, you know, it was COVID, there was nothing going on at the time. But also, just, it felt like there was no one there, but then there was everyone there.
Yeah, because it was like one of the most watched, because everyone was at home, right? Everyone was like...
But I never forget, I remember when he missed, and, you know, I was on the opposing team, so obviously we all celebrated. I can't remember who was in goal for us, but we went to celebrate, and I remember you went straight up to Chunks. You was the first one, and was like, bro, it will be all right, man. And, like, I remember, you know, there were some people that was really disappointed. You know, they're not even footballers. And they were so disappointed. And I was like, it changed my perspective on, obviously, you know, you win at the end. But at the same time, I was like, this was just a vibe.
Yeah.
If I never do this again, it was just a vibe. I got to be around a ton of my friends. But, like, the way you remained, like, you're like, yeah, like, I'm a human being first. Before I'm Tom Davis, before I'm on television, before I'm on Soccer Ed, I'm a human being first, and I know what that would feel like. So the fact, I'll never forget that. You went up to him and you just put our arm around him. You was like, oh, bro, it's all right, man. It'll be okay, man. And I was like, yeah, no, big up Tom, man. Because there was a lot of people taking that a bit too serious. You know, you're like, it's not that deep.
No, but like, and you know, the sad thing was, it was like, so Chunks was like, I never met him before. Probably a bit too old to be too, like, knowing, you know, I just vibed off him for the minute I met him. And like, so me and him as well, like, they had this mad thing where, I don't remember the food, there was like these tiny little portions of food. Yeah. This is before me and Chunks both went on a health kick, and I'll get to that in a second. But like, Chunks would like, he'd like knock on my door and go, big bro, I've got some stuff smuggled in.
Oh no, listen, everyone was struggling. Listen, remember that day I got like 10 pieces?
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. So, but me and him just buzzed off each other, and we found it like, I just found his energy like beautiful. But when and the thing about him when he missed that penalty is there was like by the way, like in training, his penalty, he didn't miss one penalty. He was insane. He was, and so, yeah, he was taking the fifth, whatever. But but then there was sort of few people like, oh yeah, no, who've been playing in it longer or felt they had sort of like more bearing on it all. I just really loved the kid, and I felt quite protective of like, and when I saw the reception, like when he missed, it was just like, I didn't really have any other, that's just me as a person. And subsequently then we both come off the pitch, and then there'd been this whole thing where like the commentator for the game had just been cracking fat jokes about me and Chunks.
Yeah, I remember this. Yeah. He got me mixed up with Locksmith from Rudimental. Yeah. I remember
then he made all these jokes, and then like you're coming off the pitch and you think, oh look, this kid's just missed his penalty, and he's kind of getting a bit of, and then I remember like me and him were gonna like tweet about it, and then Ashley Cole went, no, don't wait till tomorrow morning and like speak to people, don't just fucking react like now. I remember Ashley for that being like sound, and like, but then I remember getting to a hotel, and then it was brought into this quite a big thing. And actually it's a weird thing because, and I've sort of text Chunks, we keep in contact, but like it's a weird thing because both subsequently from there, me and him, because it was like my dad was like, there's like 6 whatever million people watching this, and like someone's making jokes about your weight,
Yeah.
From there, both me and him went on this journey. Like from there, I've lost like 4 stone since that day. I'm
Wow.
but that part of it was like, fucking hell, you feel like a figure of ridicule because of this. Like it's something
that is there to make money for
Yeah,
charity.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We're doing it for free.
But also you're like, number one, they weren't even very good jokes, but number two, and like I don't bear any, because I'd be a hypocrite if I'm like, sometimes people get stuff wrong. Some people, like, I don't bear any ill will, and like, he's got to fill time. And if I'm honest with you, sitting here as like a guy, an ex-builder and whatever, like, I'm pretty thick-skinned. My thing was for Chunks, he's a kid still at this point, you know? He's a kid navigating what is quite a toxic world anyway. You don't have to go far to get people saying horrible stuff. When you're an older, wiser person within society, you should know a little bit better. You should be cheapening stuff through that. But actually seeing the journey on what Chunks has been on physically and you know, as a person, but you look at him and go, fuck man, that was in quite. But then I've never spoken to him about it, but I'm like, for me it was like, shit. Like, I was getting loads of tweets and stuff, like fucking horrible stuff. And you're like, oh, maybe this is something that I need to look at. And actually it was like, yeah, it was something that kickstarted quite a lot of like self-examinations, like looking at myself and like, you know, because also you like, playing soccer was a big deal for me. And I was like, I don't want to be remembered as the guy that they're making fat jokes about. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was a weird one.
So like when you look at towards like, you know, your career and you start, because, you know, you've got family and you're successful within your stand-up, you're successful within your acting, you're successful in your writing, successful with your podcast. I know you do a podcast also with Romish as well. Wolf and Owl as well with Romish. When you start, are you in a place now where you really are like starting to just kind of plant now a little bit where you're able to see what you put in? So you're talking about being on a building site and you're like, what you put in is what you get. Yeah. So are you at a point now where now you are getting, essentially, you know, you're getting the roles, the commissions, the audience members coming to your show. So how do you start trying to navigate, you know, a part of your life where you're like, do I want to do this forever? Or do I want to be at home? Do I want to be in a place where kind of want to be in the background and maybe just write? Or are you just in a place where you're like, I really like the next generation and I really want to give them a boost and show them how it's done? How do you start to plan that towards the later part of your life?
I think like work-life balance is something massive, right? I think that getting that right when you've got a kid, and also just even like for myself and my wife, it's like working out how to structure that. So she feel like I'm the best husband, I'm the best dad I possibly can be. But also like you have to, you know, I think it's like no matter what you do for a living, you have to, you know, pay some sort of respect to the business that we're in. And like you know, I look at, there's so many different levels to it. Like stand up, I don't think I still look at myself as being relatively like, I look at my last tour, I think, man, it was pretty good. I'm proud of it, but I know I can be better and I can push this better. You know, and I think stand up, I look at it and go, I'll always do this now. I had a long time out and I missed it. Acting, you know, you sort of think, acting I'm really, really like, I am not fussy, but I'm like, if this is right, it's right. Like, I know that thing can work for me. I know that thing won't. Things like, for me, entertainment now is slightly something that I go, like, I don't think it's my wheelhouse to be that good at it. Like, and then this is like, you know, like we come on your show and is it, you know, on Channel 4, which is like, and I'd have fun on there. But when I did a show with Jamie and Harry Redknapp, which was, I love them guys. I found I was like, I don't think I was going through a lot of stuff mentally at that point. But I was like, I don't think I'm that good on this. I think Jamie was exceptional. I think Harry's hilarious, and I found myself looking at like people around me, like you or Asim or whoever, would come on the show, and I think, fucking hell, these guys. Like, I got so in my head about it, and I was like, this isn't something I feel like confident in. Like, give me a role that I can audition for, I believe I can get. I'm kind of like, you know, I feel that's more something it's knowing what your limitations are. And when it comes to the next generation, I'm like, so Fatih Al Ghori was like my support act, and I was constantly saying to her, she can be brilliant. She's incredible.
Hilarious.
So we just got her
God.
on BBC. We just got her, like, so she's had a little pilot there, which is really funny. And now hopefully we can push that. And there's a few other people that I look at and think, God, you're exciting, you're good. I think the thing for me is it's like, and you're, again, like, it's something that you've been fucking brilliant at. It's like, I look at social mobility as a thing. I look at like my background and like going, like, how can I help pull the next few people through who might not necessarily be, we do a thing with the King's Trust where we've got young writers coming in from different backgrounds, and they're like writing scripts for us, and like, they're writing, so we're trying to teach them how to write. And it's the deeper thing is it's a confidence. It's not just like, oh, you're going to get a film out of this. Some of them might just write a script and feel like, oh shit, I've accomplished something. And that gives them a confidence within life to maybe go out and do something, whether it's within this industry or any other, but they're getting in a confidence, and that's been like really rewarding. We've just done a first year, which is all London, and the second year, which is going to be hopefully Birmingham or Manchester. And that's like young people that you're working with, and you're like, on the ground, and you're like, hopefully you can pull through the next group of people. And this industry's tough. It's hard. It's like, you've got to have so, like, I look around and think of the people that when I started and like who I go, it takes something from you, but you've got to be the perseverance is essential, but also luck is massive. But if you can just give people, and I never really had this, that's self-learned, I guess, through time, through various different things. But if you can somehow give people that inner confidence as themselves, to sort of walk with their shoulders back a bit more, like go into a job interview, and whether that job interview is in retail or like in the city or whatever, they believe a little bit. That's an essential thing. We owe that. We owe that to the people up and coming in society, because there's a lot of toxic role models that aren't very good in our society. You ain't got to look far for them. And I hope that I'm not that. I know I'm not that, and I know that you're not. I know you're a very positive role model. And that's why we owe that to the next generation, to go, you know what, like, have a look over here, because we come from where we come from, and we've got here, but we haven't done that in a way of that's an important thing.
Oh, Tom, man, it's been a pleasure though, bruv.
Right, it's been a dream.
Like, I've been trying to get you on here for a minute,
I know,
man.
and I've and it's just, like, this has been.
So I'm just.
I think we've probably done 6 hours.
Nah, but honestly,
like 20 minutes.
I really rate and respect what you do, man. But also just who you are. Like, I seen you recently at your office as well, like, and just even just in that short period of just you like sharing advice and just being like, oh yeah, this is great, or even you mentioning the podcast and stuff, like you're a very, very talented person. Like, I know you know this, but honestly, like, bad boy actor. When I've seen you in stuff, I'm like, I genuinely, I'm like, right, is that the same person I know? Because he's really a different character there. And not to say that any of my other friends don't feel like that, but like, I genuinely am like, that's why I had to ask them, I'm like, right, are you really doing the method thing? Because I believe it, man. But that just goes to show how good of an actor, and the fact you haven't gone to like one of these big drama schools or anything, and you've just taken it up in the sense of what you've learned, of what you've been around in, but also just the person you are. Like, you're one of those people that just give a shit. You just like message on the off, or just like, oh, like, how's this going? Or I've seen this project. And anytime I've had a show, you've always been able to come on and lend a hand, and do you know what I mean? Don't hold any ego. So listen, it's been a pleasure. Can't wait to see the film with Guy Ritchie, bruv. Come on, bruv. I know it's how when I said it, he was like, yeah, bruv, NDA can't really. let's cut that bit out.
No. We could have. That's it. That's the first.
And you're on tour in January as well, right? Oh, wicked, man. Well, listen, man, if you listen to the pod, make sure you snap out them tickets, man. But listen, this has been your beginning, middle, and end. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, my brother. Really appreciate that,
Okay.
man.
Thank you.
Hey, what's up? Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. Now, a lot goes into making each episode. I know you hear my voice, but there's a team behind the scenes who help make it. And if you did enjoy it, I'd really, really appreciate it if you could show the love to them by giving us 5 stars. And if you also have the time, please leave us a review. It's always appreciated, and we love reading the comments. And of course, we want to keep making it better. Thank you for listening, and have a great day. Peace.